What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Daryl DTV, and this is part 4 of my Richard Corben comic collection. Now, as some of you may know from some of the past videos, I've been on this relentless quest to collect every Corben comic in his catalog, and I've been finding these books left and right. I've actually been following Corben since the old 1984 epic, eerie, heavy metal days. I got out of collecting a couple times throughout the years, but when I just recently started collecting again, maybe 5-6 years ago, I had no idea that Corben had a consistent career in just regular comics, because back in my younger days, I just saw the comic magazines. I didn't know he did any regular sized comics back then. Probably because you couldn't really find them in comic shops. So I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. But I've been finding these books left and right. And so far, I want to show you what I've gotten for part 4. Okay, so let's get started. Now, I've been collecting not only these Corben books so rapidly lately, in addition to just comics in general, that I haven't really gotten into reading a ton of them. There's some that I've read, some I've started, some titles I've went back and reread a couple times because I enjoyed them so much. So there's not a ton that I can tell you about the actual stories in detail, but I would like to share with you what I have picked up since the last video. Okay, so here we go. First book I want to share with you. This book is so attractive to me. Horror in the Dark. And if I'm not mistaken, this is a 5-book run. 5 or 6. I believe it's just 5 books. And this is issue number 1. This is the only one I have from this title so far. This was on Corben's publishing company, Fanagore Press. And look at that artwork. Just look at that. Is that crazy or what? But I'm really looking forward to finishing this run. 1 and 4 more to go. Any of his Fanagore titles, that's the stuff that I was really going for first. These have been pretty pricey. I don't remember exactly what I paid for this one, but I got this one for a pretty decent price. But I'm on that quest, so I'll be looking for the other 4. Next up, I'm very excited about this book. This is on Dark Horse Comics. This is Rat God number 4. The reason why I'm excited about this book is because this actually completes my Rat God run, which was only 5 issues long. But this was the last one I was looking for. And so I'm excited, to get into this story. Rat God, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Corben did a lot on Dark Horse Comics, and man, what a company to work for in terms of being able to express yourself in only the way that Richard Corben does. Those of you who are familiar with his work know exactly what I'm talking about. Next up is another Edgar Allan Poe story that Richard did. This was a one-shot comic, and this is called The Premature Burial. So we know Edgar Allan Poe was a bit of a nut and had the craziest stories. And so that mixed with Corben's art, that's going to make for a very interesting read. Also on Dark Horse Comics. This next one, when I saw it, I didn't know what to make of it because I could clearly see that the cover was Frank Miller, because I recognized his art right away. This is from DC Comics, and it's called Black and White. And it's got Batman on the cover. I wanted to confirm that Corben was inside here. So I opened it up right away when I found this one, and I just want to show you guys exactly what I found inside. So what it is there's a few different artists and stories that's featured in this book, and like many of Corben's many of his art jobs were him appearing in books with multiple artists and multiple writers. So there's multiple Batman stories in here is what I'm trying to say. And this one, Monsters Maker, was the story that Corben did. And if you look, you see that classic Corben art style. So, wow, Corben and Batman in DC Comics. This might be a first. If you know, any of you guys know of any other DC books that Corben appeared in, let me know. I'm not sure if I have any or not. That doesn't sound familiar though. Now this next one I want to show you was just a 2-issue series. Seemed pretty interesting to me. Mad Dog Graphics. This is Vic Blood. The Chronicles of a Boy and His Dog. Harlan Ellison is the writer. Richard Corben is the artist. And this is issue number 1. I've never heard of Mad Dog Graphics until I actually found this book. I'm not sure of the year of what this came out, but this is issue 1 of Vic Blood. And this is issue number 2, Vic Blood, a chronicle of a boy and his dog. Boy and dog stories are always good. Wouldn't you agree? Now, next up is Living with the Dead. And this was on Dark Horse Comics. This was actually one of the titles where Corben only did the cover art. So he's not represented inside anywhere, just the covers. As you know, there's some books where he did the art on the cover and the art inside. Some he did the art on the cover, the art inside, and wrote the story. Some he did just the art, as in this one. And then some he had multiple, there were multiple writers and multiple artists inside of the book. And then there are some where he didn't do the artwork on the cover, but he did do the art inside. So there was a variety of styles in which, he appeared in comics. And this one was one where he just did the cover art. So this is issue 1 of Living with the Dead. This is issue number 2, Living with the Dead. And this is issue number 3 of Living with the Dead. And this was just a 3-issue run. And I was fortunate enough to get all 3 of these at the same time. So that was a big plus. Richard Corben, Living with the Dead. All right, so next up, Corben teams with Mike Mignola. Some of you already know what I'm getting ready to say, but this was Hellboy. Also on Dark Horse Comics, this is The Bride of Hell. This was a one-off story. If I'm not mistaken, I think all of the Hellboy stories that Corben did on Dark Horse, he teamed with Mike Mignola for these Hellboy titles. So this was the one-off of Hellboy, The Bride of Hell. And then this one was an exciting one to find. This is Hellboy, The Crooked Man, and this is issue number 1 of 3. Now, if you've seen any of my other Corben videos, you know that I already have issue number 2 and issue number 3. So this, of course, completes the run of The Crooked Man, Hellboy, on Dark Horse Comics. So I've never been attracted to Hellboy in any sense, but when Corben puts his hands on it, you know I gotta check it out. So I'm looking forward to reading that one. Now this next one I found to be very, very interesting. Here Corben teams up with Garth Ennis. This is The Punisher, and this is a one-shot on Max Comics. Check out that artwork. Now, what I found to be very interesting about this title in particular is, if you are familiar with Corben's work, then you know that he has this kind of unpredictable style of how the comics are set up. Whereas this particular book was kind of set up in the traditional, box style artwork, which you didn't see a lot in Corben's early work. So it's almost like you're seeing Corben in this traditional comic layout, opposed to like his art taking on any form. It's been in circles, it's been across pages, it's been in small boxes, but this is like more of a traditional look, a traditional comic book look for Corben. Nothing surprising, in the world of comics in general, but it just kind of stuck out to me to see Corben in that style. I don't know if that was his idea or, Max Comics or what, or the writer Garth Ennis. But looking forward to reading that. We all know about Punisher. You can't go wrong with Punisher. Next up, issue number 3 of Pt.4. This is one of those books that Corben wrote. It's on his publishing company. He also did the artwork. And this is, I'm sorry, not his publishing company. This is on Last Gasp Comics. I'm not sure what his input of Last Gasp was, but Pt.4 was definitely, his creation. I haven't cracked this open yet. I do have issue number 1, so just 2 issues so far in that run. I'm not sure how many comics are in that run, but this is issue number 3, so I've got 1 and 3, so I might have a little ways to go. All right, next up is another Dark Horse Comics classic, and this one is kind of familiar to a lot of you guys. One of his popular titles, Shadows on the Grave. And that was that classic Corben style. This is issue number 3, I believe. I'm not sure. Was it 9 issues or 12? I think it was 12 issues in this run. I'm not exactly sure, but we're gonna get back to that title in just a second, Shadows on the Grave. But next up is on PC Comics. Next up, which I want to show you, is Twisted Tales, number 2 on PC Comics. On one of the other videos, I showed issue number 1. Actually, I think I showed a few. Issue number 1, I believe 3, 4, and 5 actually. So I believe he did, Corben did the artwork for the first 5 issues, and then there were other artists and writers, I believe, starting with issue number 6. But look at this. This is kind of deranged. So I do believe, for as far as Corben's work, I do believe this completes my run of Twisted Tales, the first 5 issues. All right, now. Okay, so next up we have Shadows on the Grave, issue number 6, Corben style, and I'm showing you these in the order that I actually found them. So if it's jumping around from title to title or from issue number to issue number, that's the reason why. More classic Corben horror. Next up, I want to show you issue number 1 of Dark Horse Presents. This was another one of those books that had multiple stories by multiple artists and multiple writers. In fact, at 80 pages. So this is a pretty thick book. It retailed for $7.99. Dark Horse Comics. Even Frank Miller's in here, along with Corben and a number of other artists and writers. Neil Adams is in here. And the story that Corben did in here was Murky World. Now, those familiar with Murky World know that that was a story that came out back in the 80s, I believe. So this is basically a repress of that story. And I kind of flipped through it, but I'm not sure if the entire story is featured in here or just a small part of it. But yeah, Dark Horse Presents. This was I found this at a local shop where I am, and then in another location I actually found issue number 2. Now let me say this too, Corben did not do, wait a minute, yes, Corben did do that cover art, but here issue number 2, that's not Corben's art. It's Neil Adams, and this is another one where Corben does a story side. I'm not sure what it is. I haven't opened this one yet. I'm not sure if it's Murky World, maybe another part of it, or if it's another story altogether. And then I also found issue number 3. I believe this is, no, I'm sorry. This is issue number 18 of Dark Horse Presents. And all these were like 80-page books, very thick books. $7.99 a copy, which is kind of pricey. Not sure what's in here yet. As far as what story he is, I'm assuming it might be more Murky World, but who's to say? Next up, we're going back to Shadows on the Grave. This is issue number 1. We have issue number 2 of Shadows on the Grave. And then we have issue number 7 of Shadows on the Grave. And when I found issue number 7, I actually completed that run. So that's what's exciting about this title today, and showing you this. I now have the entire run of Shadows on the Grave. Like I said, I do believe I can't remember if it's 9 issues or 12 issues or something like that, but I have them all at this point. All right. The last book I want to show you today is on PC Comics. It's another Edgar Allan Poe book, and it's simply titled A Corben Special, and this is issue number 1. Again, I never heard of PC Comics until I actually started finding some of these Corben books. Issue number 1, House of Usher. And I do have another Corben book. I believe it was on Dark Horse, and it was actually called House of Usher. I'm not sure if this was the first pressing of it, and then it was re-released on Dark Horse. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but I definitely have both. So only time will tell when I can get into these books, and I have to make a video when I get into some of these titles. So yeah, that is the latest part 4 of my Corben collection. This is what I found since the last video. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you guys soon with part 5 of my Richard Corben comic collection. This is Daryl D, Daryl D TV. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.